Hello and welcome to a sound design video on the Virus TI2 desktop, and this is specific to an ambient pad, but there are also a lot of generic ideas which I'm making part of this sound design for this pad. And when I start with the init pad, which comes per default basically on the Virus TI, I first, like when I play some notes, I first start changing the oscillator balance to just one oscillator, so I'm not hearing both at the same time. And another thing that I'm changing immediately usually is the filter. So when I go into the filter, there's this cutoff link which I'm changing to off, because then the two cutoffs for the two filters are acting independently. And when it comes to ambient pads, it's quite interesting to have this key mode set to hold, because then I don't need to press the keys or keep the keys pressed. So I just have basically a hold mode in here, and whenever I hit the mono button, it's gonna hold the keys. Okay, so when I want to find some interesting tones for the first oscillator, I am choosing a specific oscillator, which is in this case, for example, the grain simple. I like the grain oscillator a lot. The other ones are very good as well, but the grain simple is something that I really appreciate a lot. There are a lot of great wavetables, and it just sounds like how should I call it, like maybe a bit glassy or something like that, so quite nice. And it's recommended in the manual, so if you want to hear the wavetables a bit better and get to know them a bit better, it just makes sense to go a few semitones down, like for example 24. And when you go back to the edit mode and when you go through the different wavetables, you can now hear better the harmonics. So maybe let's get started with this one. And I'm gonna pitch it up a bit again. And the first thing that you can do is applying the shape to both oscillators actually, while we only hear one right now. And when changing the second filter to a high pass filter, I can already filter out some tones there. Of course, the effects section is very nice here, so I always dial in some delay, which most of the time, let's use the classic one, and maybe which one should we choose? Let's get this one and put the coloration a bit higher so we get the high frequencies covered a bit better. And let's see how it sounds. So we already have some more left and right panning, at least it feels like this, coming from the delay. I'm going to higher the attack and the release a bit. So next off, I would get the cutoff. modulated as well. And maybe the panorama even, so we get a bit more stereo even. Okay, so we can play around with some other parameters. So the other mount doesn't have any effect yet because we're not using the second oscillator. But if we would, you would hear some modulation. So what I'm always doing is there are those 6 slots here, and when choosing the the NA key fine and assigning it to, for example, the oscillator, like I would maybe choose both oscillators, and maybe I'm gonna do it for the pitch slightly of oscillator 1 and the pitch for oscillator 2. As you can hear, there's some detuning happening. But you know, it's happening across the keyboard, so it's not just like some, I don't know, sine wave or any other wave that is modulating the pitch, but it's a different value per key that you're pressing. So it emulates a bit like what the old old machines from the 70s and 80s, like the old analog machines, are basically doing, and this is adding a bit more, let's say, a warmth to the sound. Although this is like a complete different sound harmonic right now compared to the old machines, but still, like, I think it adds some value to the overall sound and to the overall exciteness of the sound. So when I now and in the second oscillator as well, I'm maybe gonna choose a different oscillator, maybe even let's go with the wavetable pulse with modulation. So we can choose something here as well. And maybe pitch it down. And we can also turn on the third oscillator. Maybe let's say sine wave. I just added an octave, edited with an octave down and a seventh down. So I think now we are already in like ambient pad territory, and we didn't add any reverb. Okay, from here on we can continue, and maybe we can change the LFOs a bit. So we have LFO2 in action all the time, and it's basically just rising and falling all the time. And we want to make it maybe a bit more interesting, and we can choose a waveform here. So I'm going to edit the LFO to a different wave shape. So we can start with wave shape 1 maybe. 3 in this case. This is something I like. I put the rate a bit down so it all is a bit slower. There's a lot going on in this patch. Okay, so we can choose LFO1 to fine-tune a few things. So for example, when we go through the default settings here, we can slightly pitch oscillator 1. And then we can assign a target, which could, for example, be, let's see, maybe the interpolation of oscillator 1, which is making the wave not going like super fluent, but you can add something like a more steppy way of going through the wave shape. So let's find the oscillator 1 interpolation. In which direction I have to dial it. Okay, so I have to dial it in the positive direction. So I'm just put it here to maybe something like 71. And we could use the second slot to have LFO1, maybe bipolar, modulating the cutoff 2, the filter cutoff 2. Filter cutoff. Filter to cutoff, okay. And we can choose the resonance for filter 2 and make it maybe a bit higher. Let's maybe keep it the same, more or less. So there's an EQ in here which I like a lot, so you can refine your sound a bit better without having to choose an equalizer in post-processing. So here you have a specific frequency, a gain, and a Q factor for a I think it's called bell, to kind of like cut off the specific frequencies a bit, not cut off, but like reduce the frequencies a bit. So I'm choosing a very high very high Q factor, so I have a very thin bell, and when I put the gain to 16 dB, I can go through the frequency and see where exactly the, like, let's say the frequencies are which are a bit disturbing maybe. So I'm gonna already here, not about this disturbing frequencies. And I'm gonna make it a bit wider and put the gain to -16. That sounds a bit cleaner. You can make it a bit more narrow to bring some tones back a little bit. Higher up a little bit again. There's also a low EQ, which I can also use to remove some low frequencies. And a high EQ to do the same for the high frequencies. Okay, sometimes it's also fun to just play around with the different LFO wave shapes. So, for example, let's just on LFO1 use a different different shape. Does something with LFO1, so you could, for example, take another slot and modulate the rate of LFO1 with LFO2. So we have LFO2 bipolar here, and we modulate LFO, where is it now? LFO1 rate. Okay, quite nice, but we can also maybe change the LFO1 to a different wave to try it out as well. Sometimes I'm just changing the cue in the middle of the sound design because, you know, something that might have fit like 5 minutes ago doesn't fit anymore, so I'm adjusting it constantly to remove some frequencies that I find a bit disturbing. Okay, so this, at least to me, sounds already quite nice. So I can add some more effects, or I can even go here, adding some unison. Sometimes 2 voices is enough, so you have to be careful with those parameters as well as with the grain complex oscillators. They are quite CPU heavy, and it kind of takes away some 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 of your polyphony notes, or your maximum number of notes that you can play. Yeah, so now with a twin detune, sounds like this. Oops, sorry, it was a bit shaky, the camera. I can also go up to 3, which might sound a bit more dense, but I wouldn't even go beyond 3 voices. Okay, so of course we can also add some noise, which might add some, like I always call it, dirt to the sound, and also a bit warmth in my senses. Okay, so what else? So what you can also do is that you can send your sound out of one of the other outputs. I got an Eventide space connected to it, so it's not turned on right now, but usually I always route a specific amount through this output. There's a specific configuration which allows it's this one, like the surround configuration, which allows to send some audio stream to your output 2, for example. So you can also change it to the other outputs, or like left and right, or individually. But if you keep it with out 2, left and right, you can, edit like this to kind of route your audio through the other output, and you can run it through an Eventide space. Okay, so I hope you liked this video, and maybe you even learned something out of it, maybe not, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, and see you next time.